introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Madhumita Banerjee. I'm from India. I hold MicroMasters from MIT and CSCP certification. Apart from that, I am working with a boutique analytics firm as a program manager handling supply chain digital transformation initiatives for the clients. Majorly, I have worked for retail and CPG clients where we are using machine learning and AI application and creating, pilots and end-to-end projects for them. So thank you for having me here.
Thanks a lot, Maddie. Okay, again, I just want to remind the panelists, if you don't speak, just mute yourself because I can hear some background noise for some of you. Okay, moving on, we have Lewis. Hi, Lewis, welcome.
Oh, hi. Good afternoon. My name is Lewis Ko. I'm from Singapore, and I'm currently working for KPMG, and I am working as the NITSO for the company itself. And in a previous life itself, I used to work on the projects for supply chains related to machine learning and moving forward to AI. And therefore, I'm here to share and also to learn. Thanks.
Okay, and last but not least, we have Niraj. Hi, Niraj, welcome.
Hello, Max. Hi, everyone. My name is Niraj. I'm based out of Kuala Lumpur. I'm Indian originally. I am leading the continuous cost and quality reduction program for a large elevator and escalator company based out of Southeast Asia. We primarily delve in bridging the gap between technology and the current supply chain practices and bringing them to life. I'm passionate about developing those upcoming trends that we see and solving the problems to all our stakeholders.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's start with our first topic. I wanted to bring up something we discussed earlier, but just to set the scene, as some of you know already, I mean, AI has been around for quite some time already, and I wanted to get your feel about what have we done in the past, 5 or 10 years, and what is new now in maybe with the use of Gen AI. So maybe get your feedback and your views on this. Yeah. Anybody? Feel free to unmute you.
Sure, I can probably kick us off. So, I mean, I think artificial intelligence in general has sort of been around a lot. I think it got originated in the 1950s, Dartmouth, with a couple of the professors there building it. I think what we've really seen in the past 5 to 10 years, since probably about 2015, is the rise of deep learning specifically. I think that kind of has come up with computer vision, and then sort of more recently, natural language processing with generative AI being the kind of headline use case. Here. And I think that's kind of where a lot of the buzz is around, but there is reason to be excited about sort of many of the advancements that have come out in the past 5-10 years in deep learning.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think in the realm of supply chain, with the increasing demand of globalized and interconnected marketplace and then fluctuating customer expectations, automation has always had a very big place. Starting from the early 2000s when we had cognitive RPA era, then we moved to no code, low code orchestration API, and now coming into the Gen AI age, as we call it. It's all about increasing the efficiency, visibility, and profitability for the whole domain. So yeah, we are ready for welcoming this new age.
Okay. Anybody else would like to comment on this? Dirk, yeah.
Yeah, I think for people who are not like getting right into the AI scene, it's an oversimplification, but it can basically be divided into what I'd like to call like numbers AI, those things that like require large amounts of numbers, and what has happened in the last year where which is language AI, large language models, AI that is good at interpreting and generating language, and that opens a whole new world of possibilities and makes it much easier for us to interact with it.
Okay, if you want to step in again as a panelist, feel free to unmute so I can see that you are unmuting yourself, and then I will let you speak. Otherwise, you can stay muted. That would be easier for me to manage that. Let's talk about the impact of AI and Gen AI on the core supply chain function. How do you think AI is currently transforming the core processes in supply chain, procurement, or logistics?
I would say we're still in an orientation phase where a lot of the big companies are getting familiar with AI and looking at like what is possible. Uh, yeah, where can I apply AI? And I think a few of the low hanging fruit cases would be in HR functions, in training when you onboard a lot of new warehouse workers or other workers. They might have very similar questions, and there are large volumes. Things as how do I apply for leave? And those would be very low hanging fruit cases to apply AI. Others would be in automatically processing bill of lading, receipts, all those kinds of things.
Okay, Madhi, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to add that across supply chain, plan, source, deliver, make, we have reached the stage of advanced analytics, but to call it a full utilization of AI, that's again a far stretched view, especially for supply chain, given the complex dynamics it has. So there are use cases off the shelf, starting from demand forecasting to route optimization, to freight forecasting. A lot of forecasting and prediction algorithms we are using. We are still in the era of generating insights and letting a manual intervention, or letting the supply chain SMEs take
I'm not
that
too sure if
ultimate
I can
action.
speak, Max. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
Madhi, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, but to have that integrated kind of feedback learning loop using AI, where we eradicate the possibility of manual intervention and let the computer system take end-to-end decision, that's something which we are still looking forward to, especially for this domain. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, Jacques, yeah, I know you want to speak. So just make sure to unmute, and then, yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the problem is that I can't hear, apart from one or two speakers, I cannot hear what is being said in the background. So apologize if sometimes I speak over the people that are presenting here, because I can't hear. So anyway, I just want to say that when it comes to supply management and the Gen AI, and particularly machine learning in particular, which is a subset of AI and Gen AI, I think the key thing is that what currently has been processed so far using this tool is the visibility that it brings. But generative AI can process even larger volumes of data or near real time in all aspects of the supply chain. And for me, I think, and for the companies that have been working as an assignment, it is definitely something that is critical and very interesting for them. Obviously, the other part, because you generate a large amount of data thanks to Gen AI, it helps also in the decision-making process throughout the supply management chain there. That's basically the 2 points I think that
Okay.
that I want to bring forward, Max.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Lewis?
Yeah.
Niraj?
Yeah, I would think that I mean, other than those much more developed countries with their own supply chains and or their logistics, which has been well perfectly in terms of infrastructure wise, example in China wise, AI has helped them to do a lot of the automation and predictions itself. But as for the rest of the world itself, in terms of learning how to embark onto AI and trusting AI to do their job, itself, it's at a very infant stage for a lot of people, and it takes time for them to be familiarized and also to learn how to utilize it and embark on the journey itself.
Okay, you can breaking up, but I think we kind of get it. Yeah, Niraj, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, overview is like, we are still in very early days, and definitely it's very exciting, the buzz of generative AI. And I think one essence of what we saw from the previous models like the RPAs or the APIs is that is the generative AI has democratized the way that we see the flow or the information that is coming across to various stakeholders, which is huge. But what is the real realm of possibility is something that only time can tell, and supply chain leaders and professionals would need to be mindful on how we bring this data and this insights into transformational actions to the organization. That is key.
Okay, good point. So you touched about something interesting, Niraj, about the leadership, and I want to bring this another topic also, which is I think quite important. There seems to there are a number of companies who are now embracing AI, and the CEO and the IT are starting to have mandates and very clear, or they try to implement pilots, but quite often when it comes to supply chain. Those people, including IT, do not understand very well the supply chain processes, and there seems to be a gap between what IT wants to do or the top management and what the supply chain professional would like to use or implement. So, is that something that you guys see happening? This disconnect between IT vision and supply chain team, and especially when it comes to AI. And what would be your advice to actually fix this?
Yeah, so I've seen this actually quite a bit at the companies we work with. I think everyone is really excited about artificial intelligence as a concept. Everyone wants to implement it. I mean, there are surveys going out, 80% of CEOs think it's a top priority. Probably a lot of them, are kind of a little behind the curve on the learning side, though. Generally, what I've seen be successful is, first up, you need a sort of cross-functional team within the company of supply chain professionals, IT professionals, AI professionals to kind of work together and develop and implement AI strategies. And the second thing that you need is basically like encouraging leadership, right? So encouraging CEOs, encouraging supply chain leaders and IT leaders to invest in AI training and development for these sort of professionals in the team, like budgeting it, staffing it correctly, and then like kind of giving them sort of room to run has been the formula that I've seen the most success for.
Yeah, Jacques, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a chart here, but I don't know how to share it. I can just go through it. So this chart speak basically about key roles that to be added to support generative AI. So there's a big, which is not surprising, a big growth in the area of data scientists. It is now well over 30% of companies that are looking for data scientists. Machine learning engineers as well, well over, it used to be 22%, it's now 28%. AI researchers, it used to be 19% only, is now 31%. Deep learning engineers used to be 16%, is now 28%. Algorithm engineers used to be 16%, is now 31%.
Okay.
And so on. So to top the whole recruitment aspect is chief AI officer used to be 11%, is now 21%. There's still a big margin there, but it's growing, and that's obviously showing a beginning of I would say of enthusiasm about generative AI and AI in general.
But that doesn't answer the question, Jacques, on the disconnect on between IT and the CEO vision and what supply chain wants. So what would be your take and what would be your advice in order to fix this here?
I can't hear properly. It's
Okay, no
again
problem.
breaking up.
Okay, we're moving on. Dirk, Niraj?
Yes. So I think what's most important for the leaders to know is like what is possible with AI, And that's actually a very hard question to like hard knowledge to come by. It basically comes from a bit of experience and study and using ChatGPT, using all these tools and seeing where it fails and where it doesn't fail. And then the second part is knowing what data are needed to accomplish those tasks, and also knowing in your company what is the quality of those data, because you can have a great use case and you think you have the data, but then it turns out that there's a lot of that the quality of those data is not high. Then the IT team is still going to have a very tough time helping you implement it.
Yeah, Niraj.
I think first thing we need to assess what are the organization's objectives before we jump into solutions in generative AI, because CEOs are excited to go try it. But let's say, for instance, that a supply chain in the particular organization is not really a core activity. They could really see whether this is something they can outsource to industry experts. And second is, before let's say you want to bring generative AI to your organization, we need to take stock of the existing digital talent in the supply chain community in your organization, and see whether you can upskill them to the level that is needed to embed generative AI into your scheme of business.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Lewis. Maddy, go ahead.
Yeah,
No, I would agree. Yes, Luis, go ahead, please, if you want to, or
it's okay.
otherwise.
No, Maddy, go ahead. You
Okay.
started. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I would agree with Rui, Dirk, and Niraj here, because there is a term in supply chain. Usually we call ABC classification for inventory, but now with the digital transformation, it's like ABC in digital transformation. So using A for analytics as a tool for creating business value by bringing change management. So that's what I call ABC in digital transformation. And that's very important to understand these basics, create a cross-functional team, create plans and strategies which are as realistic as possible, rather than flowing into the emotions of getting Gen AI and this all hype and buzzwords. So I would really agree with whatever discussion we had, and that's my take here as well.
Okay, Lewis.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, well, I agree with all the other speakers, but I think the fundamental or the general purpose of trying to onboard or embark on artificial intelligence is to first understand what are the pain points and what are the benefits of going onto it, and also what are processes that the supply chain has, and IT and the AI individuals or the specialists has to understand before, as in merging or blending them into one single solutions to fit all. So I guess that's the generic thing which I'd like to highlight. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Jacques, yeah. Yeah, you want to add? Go ahead. Okay, we have some connection issue with Jacques. So let's maybe we'll move on to a different topic. Jacques, maybe refresh your page and come back and join us again. All right, so let's move. I'd like to bring up another topic around, so accuracy, data security, and privacy are often mentioned as major challenges in adopting generative AI in supply chain function. What do you guys think, and do you see any other challenges, again, specifically to supply chain management? Accuracy, data security, and privacy. Yeah, Dirk?
I think the data privacy is one of the key issue, like even more than accuracy, because if you compromise your data security, then even if your AI is very accurate, a lot of companies wouldn't want to proceed. So the easiest proof of concept is to just use publicly available data. So there's a lot of companies that have a lot of content out there on the internet, or even their HR policies are not so secretive, they're not so sensitive, and those would be great starting points to start developing proof of concepts.
Okay, yeah. Anybody else?
I think, yeah, in
Humble.
addition to that, accuracy is a real concern. I mean, especially with generative AI, you have the hallucination problem, right? Where sometimes it's just your AI can say something that just doesn't exist, or it was trained on something that, is inaccurate. And that becomes sort of a real issue. There are a lot of companies, I think, that are coming up with ways to kind of mitigate this, or check the truth, like fact check these, even other AIs to check the accuracy of the the original AI, right? And so there's a lot of tools and policies, and I think how organizations should handle this is basically by just having clear sort of policies and procedures for like where you should use generative AI, as Dirk was saying, right? Maybe starting out with like a couple of pilot use cases that are less sensitive, and then kind of scaling up as your organization learns how to sort of adopt and scale this new technology.
But Hui, you mentioned accuracy. What is a problem? I understand that there's some hallucination, but when you're pushing, data, or are you connecting your AI with existing systems in supply chain? Why do you have that, inaccuracy issue happening?
Yeah, I mean, it's generally just like how the models function, right? So like a lot of the time, it's not like always binary in terms of outcomes, where it's like there's one solution or something like that, right? It might be a predictive analytics. Like imagine you're doing demand forecasting or something like that. You can connect it to all your data. You can plug in as much as you want here, but it's still a forecast. You're still trying to sort of predict the future. So the very nature of how the models work and like what they're trying to forecast leads to some inherent kind of inaccuracies for many use cases in supply chain.
Okay, all right. Yeah, Madi?
I would also say it's the nature of the domain we are working with, right? So in supply chain procurement, a lot of manual intervention is there. So let's say one vendor, having ABC as the name, and one vendor using A capital B and small c in the name, and that would create a data related issues when we are trying to train the model on top of it. Similarly, when we talk about using AI and modern algorithms on top of it, we end up using a lot of external data sources, let's say related to traffic, weather concession, or route guide, timestamps, everything. So what happens is the data flow from the third party to your own system has to be consistent, and then the same has to flow down where you are trying multiple models, maybe champion challenger models, and then ending up having an output out of it. So that accuracy itself has multiple layers to it. Number one, within the org, how initially my data literacy worked, or how initially my data lake, or the architecture worked, how right now it is working. We need to first have that internal study going on. Second, we need to understand when we are incorporating third party vendors data, or any third any outside data, how do we treat it at a preliminary stage before bringing into the model. And third part is to create that data literacy between the AI engineers, or work together with the data engineers, the data analysts, even the right now we are having an increase in the term of MDM, data management models as well. So we need to work in tune with all these teams along with the SMEs, so that they can say that, hey, for this use case, PO number has to be a 10 digit. It cannot go beyond 10 digit, and it cannot be 15 digits. So if I'm an analyst, sometimes I get lost. Okay, even if it is 15 digit number, it seems completely correct to me, because the data type itself is working fine for me. But then from a business standpoint of view, I understand that it has to be a 10. Whenever it is crossing that 10 and moving to 11 or 12 digits, that's an error for me. So I think all these teams has to understand the different layers from where inaccuracy is flowing in, and have to work together to make sure that we don't have a garbage in and garbage out from the AI use case which we are trying to implement.
Okay, good point. Yeah. Lewis, Niraj, on the challenges in adopting Gen AI, where, other than accuracy, we have data security and privacy, which are the main challenges. Yeah. Niraj?
I I agree 100% with what Madhumita just echoed. Right, the supply chain in many ways has been a bit fragmented, and the information exchange with other data sets, especially with other functions, can be quite challenging, which makes the model quite difficult. And another important point also would like is many of these models can come from a place of bias, and that's where some of these results can really mask the outcome that you're looking for, and that's where makes the That's where we need the generative AI models to be a bit more transparent, so that when you break down complex solutions to the management and the supply chain leaders, it becomes an actionable insight that they can act upon.
Okay, yeah, Lewis.
Thanks. Well, I would like just to highlight. I mean, it's based on data security wise. It's basically where's the source of data, as in the true source of data, and how you process it, and how do you store and as in secure your data itself. It's a very big concern out there, which is not just a buzzword that everyone just want to go AI or Gen AI, and they forgot about how to secure how the data is being processed, and whether is there any regulatory concerns out there, depending on what kind of what are target audience that you are as in focusing on, and also what are the geographical landscape that you are on, or your targeted clients or targeted market is. So there's a lot of concern onto it. Thanks.
Okay, I just want to remind everyone that you guys can ask questions. So if you have a question for the panelists, you can make use of the Q&A. You can click on the question and answers. If you don't see it on the left panel, you just click on the three dots and you will see a question mark button, question and answers. And you can use that again to push any question that you might have. Let's move on to another topic. I want like to cover on the maybe the measuring AI impact on business performance, and what kind of metrics or KPI can company do you think companies can use to assess AI impact specifically on supply chain? Do you see? I know it's still quite early stage right now, but what would be your advice on the type of KPIs or metrics they can use just to make sense and justify that they are on the right track with their program? Yeah, Dirk. Yeah.
Um, I would don't see a need to change the KPIs of the business because there's AI involved. I think most businesses have their KPIs, and the KPIs don't really need to change. It's just how can AI contribute to improving them. And then the one KPI that might be important for AI is what is your current accuracy for this process with a human. So can AI actually beat the human? That would be an interesting one to explore. And even if it cannot beat the human, it may still be useful. For example, in customer support, if I have an AI that can just generate answers to the most common questions, and my support rep only has to click OK approved, then they can fill many more tickets than and just focus on the most complex ones. So that's my take.
Okay. Anybody else on this topic?
Right. I think the most measurable parameter right now, what we are, doing with our clients as well, is to understand how the efficiency is getting impacted before and after the implementation of any tool, with inclusive of the manual interventions, which was initially there, as Dirk was saying, that the time reduction, the effort reduction, which we can assess and measure how much impact that will create if that time is getting utilized in a core supply chain activity from that SME in that regard. So I think those are the measurable impact which we can assess in a quick turnaround for any AI implementation or any tool implementation we are doing for this area.
Okay, Lewis or Niraj?
Yeah, I do agree, but I think that there is also a need for the KPI to be set on the AI itself, because after all, it's an investment, and an investment you require the ROI from it itself. And in the long run itself, if the investment doesn't as in give any returns, I don't think the management on the board will continue with it, and the business will not like it too.
Niraj?
I think the primary the business would just like to ask is how is this going to impact me in my business, right? What is the additional value? So ROI should be the first key that that should be an insight that should be available, that the generative AI will be able to give. And secondly is also, I think touching lightly on what Dirk mentioned, is we have challenges in terms of forecasting in demand planning. So using these models, we can actually really test the prowess of the forecasting accuracy uh, in demand planning and forecasting.
Okay, we have a question coming up. Someone is asking, can the integration of generative AI in sourcing or procurement lead to a more sustainable supply chain? It's still, again, early stage for that, but what's your view is? Yeah, Hui?
Yeah, I can talk about this a little bit. So again, I think it's still very early stage, right? I mean, the technology is like maybe a year old at most, and things kind of move a little bit slower sometimes, especially in navigating very complex supply chain processes. But I think the answer is yes. And I think that there's a few things that I've seen as initial use cases. I'm sure more will come up. One is like potentially identifying and maybe sourcing suppliers who are sustainable, right? So helping kind of identify or parse through maybe data with AI, such as those who would maybe meet like a sustainability criteria or something like that. I also think that like, the ability to sort of do automation and eliminate a kind of like a lot of manual work can lead to sort of greener outcomes where there's sort of less carbon intensive processes to sort of move a container from point A to point B. And then I also think that like, one thing you can do maybe with generative AI is do things like automating compliance for sustainability regulations or reporting or auditing over your business with data there. Those are just things that I've seen pilots for. Obviously, it's still very new, but I think that like if that's something that is set as a priority for the organization, it's absolutely worth looking into.
Interesting, yeah, because obviously sustainability is still going to be a big topic for a number of companies next year. Anybody else on that question? What's your view on the views? Yeah, Dirk. Yeah.
When we talk about more sustainable supply chain, I think a lot of companies want to quantify it. So in the end, that's more of a numbers calculation. So where generative AI would come into that picture is maybe if those numbers are hidden in a large piece of data, like text data, and then you can extract the numbers out of it, or you can identify products or components. But this will always be a hybrid solution because you'll need the numbers, and the generative AI is not that good at parsing numbers.
Okay. Good. Okay, let's move on to we're going to stay on that topic because we had another question which was quite close to this on sourcing and procurement. Walmart has been, testing a tool called Pactum, which is basically a autonomous negotiation tool, which help Walmart to negotiate with suppliers in a completely autonomous way using AI. Is this something that, because again, I'm trying to think about, there are a lot of time in sourcing and procurement spent dealing with suppliers, negotiating contracts, and so on. Do you think that's something that we're going to see being used more and more in having this kind of autonomous negotiation conducted by AI on the behalf of different teams, including sourcing and procurement? Yeah. Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, I would think that it's definitely is progressing, and it will be more and more user friendly in the future itself. And a lot more company will be embarking on AI to help them to do sourcing, procurement, at the same time negotiating pricing, because it will be so automated, and it's just a click of buttons or selections of things, and everything will flow through quite fast in the near future itself.
Yeah, Niraj?
I think one of the very key points from this question is like after COVID, like when we were stuck down with inflation everywhere, it was very difficult to literally pass back these costs to to the different parts of the value chain. So what now we could, with this generative AI capabilities, what we can see in the future is we will see a lot of dynamic pricing options which will be coming up in a lot of companies, which will enable the right component, right pricing, that will enable the sales to go and pitch in, which would reflect the real market trends. rather than keeping us one step behind and being reactive. And this would complement the supply chain professionals as well, procurement professionals, and specifically the sales professionals.
Okay. Anybody else on this topic? Yeah, Dirk?
I think negotiation is an interesting one because it requires a lot of back and forth, and it's quite close to the revenue because it's about deals making and pricing. So I would see some challenges in the implementation. But having said that, if you're gonna interact through a chatbot, it's gonna have two major advantages, and one is that it's not moody, so it doesn't have the emotions of the human, which can be good in negotiation. And two, it is always available. So those would be
Yeah.
the main benefits to look out for, rather than it actually being so much better than humans. It's a balance between those two aspects in my view.
Okay. We have another question, which I think is very interesting. Is what impact will Gen AI have on future skills needed by supply chain executive, especially in Asia? What impact will have Gen AI on future skills needed by supply chain professional? Yeah, Madhi?
Yeah, I think the understanding on what AI can do, and to turn it to how AI can do, to bridge that gap, Gen AI along with the trends of sustainability in supply chain would be really impactful for making us think in that way. Because all this while, with the advent of advanced analytics, we all came into the rush of what all we can do, but nobody wondered how we can do. But then the questions like privacy, biasness, hallucinations of the data, and how sustainable the whole process is, how much scalable all the options is, these are the kind of questions which the executives are interested right now. And that's what I think the next step would be, to understand a bit more on those areas. Along with that, I think data literacy again stays as important as it was. We start thinking about right after implementing or creating a strategy around AI and automation, we start thinking about the ROI. But then to invest in a tool or a technology for that matter, and then to realize the investment across years, it will take time. So I think from executive point of view, we need to understand a bit more on how we map those expectations from flowing from top to bottom, that things might take time, or it will take more amount of time in establishing that feedback loop, and creating that end-to-end understanding of what my generative AI tool is impacting in such a complex domain of supply chain. So I think these are the questions which we still need to understand, and from executive point of view, that will still be there.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else on the skills needed by supply chain professional? Yeah, Lewis. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, other than the operations or business side of things, the executive will have to consider what are the new group or new batches of employees with skill sets to operate and also to run supply chain in the near future itself, and what are these skill sets that are missing or are not in place, that how to go about growing this group of people in terms of working with governments or with agencies or with institutions, how to grow this batch of personnel to meet the future demand.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? Niraj, Ray?
I think first we have to really also look into existing training programs within the organizations, because there is one thing getting new graduates who are trained in AI to bring them in, but then complementing them with the and how do I say, and holistic supply chain processes, a traditional way how things have been done, would still be very tricky. And merging these two worlds will still be challenging for executives. So we need to encourage training programs within the organization for existing employees, for not only with existing AI programs, but also uh, creating opportunities for future AI training within the organization, so that you can complement bit of both the worlds.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think people pretty much sum this one up pretty well. Not sure I have kind of too much to add here. I would say that the big thing really is just like it's going to be a tool, right? Like, so you're going to have both data literacy. You're going to have to understand sort of what the AI can do. You're going to have to understand how to prompt engineer it, how to interface with like artificial intelligence, which may have different kind of understandings of how situations work than if you were talking to a human or something like that. And just the ability to kind of leverage that on like a high level and have like individual competency there as well, I think is going to be important for executives moving forward.
Anyway, just to, if I can push that question, do you think that if they don't have the skills or if they don't develop the skills, are those people still, do they still have a job in 2 or 3 years from now?
I think they will. I mean, 2 or 3 years is not that long a time, right? I think you'll certainly be less effective than you can be. There's still a lot of other uses for executives in businesses outside of using generative AI, but I think you're certainly hobbling yourself if you don't adopt this as like a wave of the future over the next, not 2 to 3 years, but certainly 5 plus.
So there might be 2 types of supply chain executive, the ones which are empowered and embracing AI, and the like kind of the super supply chain executive, and the more traditional one, which still have a job, but they're still here, but they are not as effective or productive as the others, right?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you get as many people in the first group as possible.
Yes. Yeah, Dirk, yeah.
Yeah, and there's often a trade-off between efficiency and resiliency. And so if you're a leader that can really keep your supply chain up and running through all sorts of mechanisms, supplier diversification, all those things, then you'll still be very good at your job. And you just need a long time horizon for those non-AI skills to come to flourish.
Yeah. Okay. We have another question, which is interesting. I mean, maybe you can think about it. So someone is asking, are there supply chain AI use cases you're seeing which are likely to see widespread adoption over the next 2 or 3 years, such as use cases that are simple, but you think are going to be super, I don't know, super effective or quickly adopted by a number of executive, which if you had to pick one, maybe each of you can pick one that you think has the best or the biggest potential for widespread adoption.
I think we already see it in the proliferation of AI-powered chatbots. Answers to frequently asked questions, whether that is from customers to the customer support center, or from new employees to the HR center. Those are typically not very sensitive, and a large volume of them can be automated.
Okay, and that could be also applied to maybe relationship with suppliers or trading partners, or do you see the use of chatbot being roll out with suppliers or maybe the 3PLs or all the different partners that you have in your supply chain?
Anywhere where there's a lot of repeated questions that can be answered with like one decisive answer, or like very few back and forth. I think that's something to look out for, like how much back and forth is needed. If not a lot is needed, you can probably automate it.
Okay, yeah, Hui?
Yeah, I think in addition to that's definitely a great point. Chatbots are going to be a very obvious kind of use case that we're seeing even now. I think 2 other big ones, automation of kind of repetitive tasks on a more broad scale is definitely going to happen. I mean, outside of just generative AI, I mean, there's a lot of computer vision. There's a lot of just language stuff that like happens in the day-to-day of a business. Like I think we talked about like automated parsing of BLs, stuff like that, bills of lading, which is probably going to be all AI driven in the next 5 years. And then probably also like forecasting, demand forecasting, right? Like cost control and forecasting, inventory management, stuff like that. I think is going to get predictive analytics are going to get a lot more accurate in the next kind of like 5+ years. And you're going to see a lot of just general applications of this across both supply chain and industries where it's useful.
Yeah. Okay, Maddy?
Yep. Along with that, we are also seeing a surge in AI-powered data cleaning tools, which are very functional, and I see that it has a long way to go. there are many off-the-shelf products which a lot of analytics companies are creating, so that they can create they call it an accelerator, where you can use it and kind of go ahead in cleaning the data, preparing the data, and make it in a usable format. So I think that's a very wonderful use case to be looked upon along with Gen AI infused.
Yeah, because companies today still have a lot of dirty, unstructured data, right, in
Oh,
their
yeah.
organization.
Yes,
So
especially in supply chain ERPs, data is just so messy
it's
still
very
now.
messy. So AI could definitely be used to clean it up and organize everything. Yeah. Lewis or Niraj? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was, if I would can choose, I would say that the AI for route planning itself, because with route planning, it shortens, also it's safe in terms of the kind of petrol or energy, and it promotes much more on the decarbonizing, and also work on towards ESG. So that is my take on it.
Okay. All right. Niraj, one widespread use case where you see in the coming years, if you had to pick one, yeah.
I see integration of the procurement with the pricing that the sales do with the organizations. We will see that evolving into the sales structure, so that they are able to give a more, how do I say, more transparent pricing to their respective customers or potential customers to win jobs, and it reflects the inflation, or what are the current issues that the supply chains are facing.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, we have 5 minutes. We're going to be wrapping up soon. Maybe I'll get your final say or final advice on, if companies, if people are watching us and thinking about implementing or starting an AI pilot, in the coming months, the new year is approaching. So what would be your advice? Where should they be doing, where do they start? Just, your quick tip or advice for them as they, start to embark in their AI journey. Yeah.
Sure. So for executives, I think two things. First, educate yourselves, right? Like make sure you understand what AI can do. Make sure you're set up for success in terms of like setting up a realistic scope, set of problems, and like challenge that is important to your business. And then second, like make sure you're getting the right people in the right places, right? Like get cross-functional teams together, get IT experts on with supply chain experts who have different skill sets, and make sure they're kind of working together effectively to successfully roll your pilot out.
Okay, good point. Yeah. Yeah, Mehdi?
Yep. The balancing of innovation and fundamental is still important. As Rui was mentioning, for supply chain specifically, the core principles of flexibility, visibility, and responsiveness must not be neglected as much as we would want to, grow beyond the buzzwords of AI and move towards making the supply chain robust. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Niraj, Lewis, Dirk, go ahead. Yeah. Each of you can bring one advice. Yeah. One piece of advice.
I would say is understand what are the pain points are, what are the goals or the target itself, and run a sandbox. Understand how it works, and work it out and test it out, and you will know what's the result and learn from it. And this is where you progress.
Okay. Niraj?
One of my takeaways is, you need to have like a forum or a committee, and you need to agree on what is your tolerance that you're willing to accept in terms of accuracy that the generative AI is going to generate, and how that you're going to work on training the models to give you more accurate information in the future. This would be the key.
Okay. And understand the limitation and the risk, yeah, from the beginning. Yeah. Okay. That's a good point. Yeah, Dirk, yeah. What would be your final advice? Yeah.
Very simple one. If you're looking for use cases, look at the text data. There's a lot of things that have been tried or investigated in the numbers realm, because this is where a lot of traditional methods have already been applied, but the text was where that's the green field. And so look at those use cases that involve text data. And yeah, happy to chat with anyone who's listening afterwards. We do these things for bigger companies to help them implement generative AI.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you very much again for sharing your insight. Thank you, Dirk. Thanks, Roy, Madi, and Lewis and Niraj for being with us and sharing and responding to those questions and sharing your views on that ongoing topic, which is AI in supply chain. As I said earlier, this is just one discussion among many others. We will continue to discuss and bring other panelists and speakers to those discussions. So we look forward again to see you next time. And in the meantime, again, if you are interested in other events, you can check out our event calendar. We have a number of events coming up on different other topics, supply chain risk, for example, in just a few weeks. And so if you are interested to plan and mitigate your risk in supply chain in the new year, we also have those discussions for you. Thank you guys again for your time, and we look forward to see you at our next event. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you,
a lot.
everyone. Bye bye.